I got distracted about talking about how awesome the OST for this game is. Like, I would actually recommend anyone who's just interested in this style of music, right? Like the more classical game soundtrack style-esque of music scenario. Like, even if you never played this game, this is a soundtrack that I would recommend people just have on their listening devices, just to be like, yo, this is a good-ass fucking soundtrack. The composer did FMA? Really? Wow. Okay. That's pretty fucking dope. That's cool, actually. That's a nice tie-in, because I'm like, I know that thing, and I appreciate that thing, because that thing's awesome. So now I'm like, vindication, because this thing is also awesome. Hey everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Triangle Strategy. I've been talking for like 45 seconds after starting recording. This is episode 45. We just defeated Trish in the defense of the Rosellan village, which I kind of think is a little indicative of my issue with the storyline, right? So over and over and over and over again throughout the story, we just call it the Rosellan village, and that annoys me, right? Like, why does the Rosellan village not have a name? Like, there's so many things in this game that I feel like they just kind of like gloss over, like to point of when they don't put dates into the things when you're looking at, they just put X's, right? They're like, on XX date, right? I'm like, you couldn't have made up a date? You couldn't have made up a village name? Like, it sucks me out of things, I guess, is my complaint, right? Because, like, I'm sitting here like, this is the second or third time that we've been to this village, and they have never once, as far as I'm aware, I could have missed it, but I don't think they've ever once called it a name. You know?
No more of your little tantrums.
Anyways, moving on.
Leastways, if you like having your neck attached to your head.
This is my immersion rage. Absolutely. So
getting that treasure. Mark my words.
I've said this to Jay multiple times because he likes to tease me about how passionate I seem to get at this game, like angry at this game. And the reason is because the writing is on the cusp of being really good. Like, when I say the story is right, like that I don't like it, it's not to say that the basis isn't there. There is a good story, or the concept of a good story underlining all of this. It's just the writing is terribly inconsistent, and it feels like a lot of things get glossed over that break immersion or break my suspension of disbelief or those types of things, right? So, come on, Trish. Don't be like that. Listen to your pa. Who's
Trish,
dying,
stop this
apparently.
madness.
Pa?
I can't believe
I
Pa
told you
is
to
the
stay
voice of
put.
reason here.
And let you throw your life away? You always were too hot-headed for your own good, girl.
Absolutely.
You have my apologies for this whole mess. I'd ask you to spare our lives. But I know how the world works. Can't let bandits think they can raise and pillage with impunity. You need to make an example out
I
of
mean,
us.
you're right. We can't let bandits raise and pillage with impunity. You know where I am in the story now? Gotcha. Awesome.
So take me, hang me, behead me, whatever you please. Just leave my daughter and my people their lives. I beg you.
Okay.
Have you lost your mind? I was the one who led us here. Me!
See, this section is surprisingly well written so far because, like, Travis's motivations and reasonings make sense to me, and the way he's presenting himself makes sense to me, and Trish's reactions, like all youth and rage and not understanding and not accepting, makes sense to me. Like, that's
Didn't
all good so
expect
far.
this from the likes of you lot. I suppose even the most unsavory of us has love for their daughters.
Love
Fair.
her I do. Aye. She's got a bit too much of my foolhardiness in her, as you can see.
Yeah, she does, which is
She's
why I
in
should
such a
probably put her
fervor
down
to
too.
Find this treasure so I can live my final days in comfort. Can't blame her for looking after her old man, can you?
I mean, when it comes at the expense of others, yes, I can.
Talking, Pa?
Just because I understand you
I'm
doesn't
the
mean I
head
can
of our
condone
band
it.
of Ruffians. So if anyone deserves to answer for your sins, it's me, and me alone.
Me alone.
From one leader to another, once again, I
I gotta
beg
grab
you,
some medicine.
spare
Almost
the
there.
others.
Then let's make a deal.
What sort of deal?
We shall pardon you and your kin and allow you to work in the Wolfort domain. But in exchange, would you serve House Wolfort? I would like you to help us find the treasure in this village.
I was gonna say, okay,
Frederica.
not the route that I was gonna go, right? Like, finding the treasure in this village was not the impetus that I had here, but like, they're bandits. They have an entire, like, bandit mercenary. My goodness, my words. Mercenary group, right? Like, employ them in the war against Esfrost is what I was gonna say. We've fought them multiple times. They don't play around. And they clearly know their way
apologize for
around
deciding this on my
Esfrost.
own,
They've been to the
but there is
archive.
some
They
merit to
stole from
this.
the archive. You're curious to see my decisions up until this point? As soon as I get out of the cutscene, I'll pull up the decision tree and we can do a quick walkthrough. Apologize for deciding on this own, but there's some
So
merit
you
to it.
believe a treasure exists?
Of a sort, yes. It may be related to the Salt Crystal. We should at least take that possibility into consideration and investigate further.
So you're saying this treasure might help everyone, not just the lucky few? If that's the case, then I'm happy to shake to that. Take me instead of Pa, or we're like to be as old as he is before we find the treasure.
Is
Stop
Trish
with the
actually going to join us?
bluster. I'm as spry as a...
Yeah, my back! Oh god,
My cursed back.
that's funny.
We all know about your back, Pa. Now go on and rest. The young blood'll take care of it from here.
That's rude. That's...
There comes
that's-
a time when a daughter's
rude.
got to pick up her pa's slack, and that's now. I won't hear another word on the matter.
You'll be the end of me yet, girl.
Well, that's entirely likely.
Like father, like daughter.
Do you find this
Let's
agreeable,
hope not.
Jerome?
I do. There was no harm done to my village or my people.
I mean, not for lack of
The deal
trying.
has been struck. Let's get started with the search, shall we?
Yes, my lord. Leave it to me.
She has joined. I got Trish. That was unexpected. That was honestly unexpected. Never met loot she didn't love. Leaps across large distances. Acquires spoils on contact. Yo, that's intriguing to me. If she doesn't have to end her turn on a spot to get stuff, that's kind of cool. If she can just, like, walk through it, that I actually do like. She had recruitable character written all over those pixels. I mean, that's fair. The only thing is this is like the third time we fought her, I think. Maybe only the second time. She's been around for a while, and I had just assumed at this point, oh, I guess we're just fighting her forever. Archibald. Okay. Before we get involved in that, let's open up our menu. Go to our War Chronicle Path Traveled. Yo! Okay, well that definitely split in several different ways. We did not... Huh. I wonder what else could have happened there. So anyways, let's go back to the beginning. So the first thing we did was we decided to go to Hyzant rather than go to Esfrost, right? Eyes. Oop, a Krabby. I want a Krabby. And then afterwards, right, we refused to surrender Serenoa, because fuck that. Or refused to surrender Roland, because fuck that. Right? And And then we refused Silvio's offer because I was pretty sure he was gonna betray us, and we were immediately proven right. And then we decided against helping Sorsley, so we didn't smuggle things to Esfrost. We reported him to Hyzant. What was the ledger option? I don't remember what the option really was here, but it was a small one. Basically, I think whether we infiltrate the House End location or not. So we did. We infiltrated. And then at 11, it was we decided not to relinquish the Roselle. Because fuck that. We chose Roland's plan when assaulting Glenbrook. So we went in under the cover of darkness and assaulted the ship and blew it up and then fought Ablora afterwards. And then now we have sided with Frederica. So yeah. Alright, let's go to character stories.
Master Archibald, is there something on your mind?
Basically, we've done nothing that Benedict wanted to do the entire time. Don't worry, you won't spoil anything? That's cool. No worries.
For you to be able to sneak up on me like that.
What troubles you?
You like seeing people's choices on a first playthrough? Yeah. So I was aware going in that there is a correct path, like a perfect path, the golden route or whatever.
Decades or more.
But I wasn't worried about trying to suss it out or
Reminiscing
figure
about
out what it was, so I really just went on gut
The
instincts.
Salt Iron War. Hard
Though
to
I will
believe it's
say,
been 30 whole years.
in fairness, there were plenty of choices that I didn't really like because there weren't what I felt were good or appropriate choices. Right? Like, there were situations where I was just like, I don't like any of these choices, you know? So I kind of just picked what I was like, this is the lesser of two evils, I suppose. Like, the thing with Sorsley, like, do you want to report him to Hyzant, or do you want to, you know, like, first playthrough is better not knowing how to get the best ending? I agree. I absolutely agree. Unless, I will say this, if you don't feel like you have the time to play a game multiple times, I absolutely understand people who are like, I really only have the time to play this game once, and I would like it to be the most optimal playthrough. Those types of situations, I'm like, by all means, you know, look up the choices that you have to make and do what you got to do. You know, just speedrun it like you. I guess that's fair. I'm absolutely not speedrunning anything these days.
My time as one of the Saintly Seven. I defended the Citadel of Sand through the conflict. I was there when Esfrost attacked. A number of Rosellan prisoners who tried to escape the Source were there too, including Our Lady Frederica's dear mother.
What's this?
She stayed behind all by herself to help the countless numbers of her fellow Roselle flee. That's how she was captured. But I knew we couldn't hold the Citadel. So I helped her and her friends escape in secret before the enemy attacked.
Oh, shit.
The wind blew just as hard that night as it's blowing now. I'll never forget watching the Roselle, caked all over in mud as they slipped away into the dark.
So you didn't want innocents to get caught up in the coming battle?
It never settled right with me. The way the goddess's teachings permitted abuse of the Roselle for the supposed sins of their past. A person's life isn't worth more or less just because of the conditions of their birth. But more than anything, I was moved by the selfless acts of Lady Frederica's mother. She reminded me of what I had once aspired to be. She was able to do what I never could. Risk her life to save her friends. I couldn't let someone like that die. Not on my watch. It wasn't long until the other saintly seven discovered what I'd done. They branded me a traitor, stripped me of my title, and sentenced me to death. Of course, I slipped out of their clutches before they could have my head.
Yeah, I do like Archibald. He seems like an interesting
I
character.
wandered for a while before taking up life as a merchant under the King of Glenbrook's patronage.
I never knew you and Lady Frederica's mother shared such a past.
I'm assuming not many do.
Well, it is in the past. Anyway, let us return. This cold night wind is making my old bones ache something fierce.
Interesting. Yeah, I get really big vibes from like what's his name? Selmy from Game of Thrones, I think is his name. The guy who, you know, was like the best swordsman ever, who stood at the tower and defeated, like, him and two others stood at the tower and nearly bested, like, no, Selmy's the one after him. Yeah, I can't remember. It's been too long since I've read those books. So, but yeah, there's a figure from Game of Thrones that reminds me of kind of like what I feel like Archibald's character is that like elite,
It's become late.
very
We best keep an eye out for
like
bandits.
good guy, like wholesome guy. Well, I say wholesome, but like, you get what I'm saying?
You have a warrior's intuition. You needn't worry. I won't let us come to harm.
It takes no great intuition to see that this world is falling ever deeper into chaos. The reasons, however, remain elusive.
It's also been too
Will we
long for
see
you,
our
that's
way
fair.
Safely through this darkness? I cannot say.
We have naught but our duty, and mine is to Prince Roland.
Gila over here
Whatever might
getting
become
real
of House
existential
Wolford.
on us.
I find your perspective refreshing. Although it may be direct, you walk the path you've chosen with confidence. On the other hand, I often feel that I'm fumbling. I had thought Gustadov to be a man of reason. But now I see that he will not hesitate to employ deceit to achieve his goals.
Not at all.
In a manner of speaking, he and I are not so different. I, too, once hoped to have the influence to change the nation. At least, I told myself so. Really, all I wanted was to be free. And Frederica was simply a means to that end.
Hey! Thanks for the follow, Little Crow. I appreciate it.
As long as I had what I wanted,
I love hearing
I
that
had
that
no great
noise.
concern for what became of her.
I gotta play some Shining Force
I-
2 on stream. I have not done that yet.
But this war has caused me to reconsider that. I realize that Frederica herself is worth caring for. She's not the sheltered princess I took her to be. Her wits are a match even for Benedict. She surprised me and shamed me. I was wrong to underestimate her, to define her by her birth and station. She represents my greatest failures as a teacher, but also my greatest success. For she has truly taken my lessons to heart. I see now there is no shame in serving another, and no shame in sacrificing my freedom for something greater. Oh, but perhaps I've shared overmuch. For some reason, I find it easy to talk with you.
The feeling is mutual. You are not so aloof as I thought.
Ah! I've just had a thought.
Okay.
When the war is behind us, I may very well open my own school.
She got kind of like anime glasses
you would be welcome
passionate
to
all of a
join
sudden.
me. I would be master of the classroom, and you could be master of the training yard. We could teach our students the art of hawksmanship. Our riders would be first class. Ah, what should our school be named? You will come
Yeah,
and teach with me, won't you?
The OST, not
Not
only is the
half
OST
so
good,
aloof
but
as I
the
thought.
cues, the changes in songs in the game are very well done, right? Ay. Okay, awesome. Fantastic. So... yeah, there's not really anything else going on. Rosellan Village. Might as well continue. Just see what's what. Ba-dum. That was surprisingly genuine for Gila's little
So
story
this
there,
book
which
is
was pretty
gonna
cool.
help us find
As
the
was
treasure.
Archibald.
That it will. We found it stuffed in the deepest, darkest recesses of the Esfrosti archives. My thieving senses tell me it'll lead us to something that'll make us all rich.
Esfrost's most confidential information is stored in the archives. There is definitely something of import in there.
Never thought I'd say this, but good steal.
It wasn't easy, but I had to. For Pa. Sadly, it's locked up tight, and trust me, you won't be forcing that thing open. I tried.
I see. It's sealed with powerful magic.
Hold up. Didn't they come to the Rosellan, like, didn't we see when Trish and Travis were on the outskirts of the village that they came here because the book said, like, had notes from Frederica's mother about this village? I might be misremembering that, but I'm like, if they couldn't open the book, how did they know to come here?
Would we need another spell to counter the seal?
There's probably a key that can open it.
I had the same thought. It's probably nestled somewhere in this village.
What makes you say that?
Take a good look at the cover, and you'll see a map of Norzelia.
Okay, maybe this is the explanation.
Indeed, there is. If this is the Norzelia River, then this must
Gotta
be
wait for the
Wolford
lore.
Domain.
In which case, those jewels
I
are
suppose
right
that's
on-
fair. There have been occasions where I'm like, maybe the game will explain more, and then the game does. But there have been just as many occasions where I'm like, maybe the game will explain more, and the game's like, nope, fuck you, goodbye.
This village.
Exactly. We came here because we thought we'd find a way to open it.
That's pretty damn astute for Trish and Travis and their bandit gang. Like, not only were they in the Esfrosti archives and managed to get into, I guess, restricted areas and find this book, snag this book, and then suss out that there's a map of Norzelia on the cover, and that this village is the central location of the map. That's some crafty. That's like some Dungeons and Dragons puzzle good shit right there.
Jerome, do you have any notion where it could be?
I've never seen a key that would fit in that sort of lock.
Are you sure it's not just coincidence?
It could be, but if it isn't,
Then the key is in this village. And the treasure in this book must be related to the Roselle. And it may shed light on the nature of the salt crystal.
God, I hope so. I need some resolution
search
on
the
some of these
village.
story points to
Salt crystal? Care explaining?
In due time. First, we find the key. And when searching for lost things, a thief can be most useful. Can we count on your assistance, Drish?
Is that really where thieves become most useful?
Sure you can, Chief.
Is
It's
searching
what our
for
lot
lost
do
things? I
best.
thought they just took things from other people, not searched out lost things. I don't know about all that jazz. Hours later. All right, well, you know, that's fair, I suppose.
We've scoured the village but have found nothing that resembles a key.
However, our search wasn't entirely fruitless. Trish told us an interesting story from when she stole the book.
Okay.
Share with the others, if you will.
You think missing information is important as part of replayability? I guess that's fair.
The Diary of Orlea.
I don't know that is... That kind of irks me some, right? Like, I don't mind a story being split into multiple sections, right? Like, there are plenty of games that I've played that a story is split into multiple sections over the course of, like, different playthroughs or different characters or different branches or whatever. But for me to be comfortable with that, the story or the information in those sections needs to be relatively fleshed out. Like, I don't like going through a path of a story and being like, well, I don't know what's going on, right? You get it? It's fair? Yeah. Like, that doesn't irk me too terribly much.
That's what the
right?
stuffy-looking
Like,
attendant
there
said
aren't...
it was. Didn't mean much to me at the time, but...
There aren't many times in the game where I'm like, I'm annoyed because the game's not telling me what's going on. More often, I'm annoyed because I just think the direction that the game went is kind of silly.
And laid the foundations of this very village after escaping from the source. It was sometime after that she met my father, the former Archduke.
Okay.
Frederica, if indeed it was your mother who penned this book, then I believe you may
I was gonna say,
have the
doesn't
key.
Frederica, like, have a pendant or a locket or something like that from her mother? I was gonna say that before we got into this conversation, but that works too.
Of course! The thing we've been searching for
Is?
has been around my neck this entire time.
Yeah, of course. That's quintessential.
It opened. So this was my mother's book.
Mm-hmm.
Pray, read it for us, Frederica.
This is a legend handed down by the Roselles since times of old. It is the secret history of Norzelia.
Oh my god, hit me. Do it up.
Orlea Roselle, am recording the legend here as the last keeper of these
Please
histories.
and thank you. I need this. Tell me! Game, give me your secrets! Tell me!
In ancient times, the Roselle lived in Centralia, a land to the distant south of Norzelia.
Okay.
It sat on the shore of the sea, a source that extended to the horizon and beyond. It was said to be a paradise, a place where people never wanted for salt.
So Norzelia, Centralia being central, right? Norzelia being to the north of Centralia. So, okay, gotcha.
The Roselle knew more about salt than anyone, for it was a part of their everyday lives. In those days, Norzelia still rested at the bottom of the sea, but a cataclysm brought it to the surface.
Interesting.
Turning it into land.
Okay.
The sea dried up, and the small portion that remained is what we know today as the source.
Okay.
Eventually, many people migrated to the new land of Norzelia. They waged war over the source, wishing to get their hands on its precious salt. Our ancestors came to Norzelia in hopes of putting an end to the fighting.
That seems a little strange.
They knew that the salt still remained, even without the sea. It merely crystallized and sank deep into the earth.
So again, right, like this is where I start to like question things. This is mythology and lore, so right, like, you know, whatever, take this with a grain of salt, as is. But, right, we have a place called Centralia that lies on the edge of an ocean, a vast ocean, right? I guess technically if Centralia, if the ocean was to the north, right? Hey. I guess technically if the ocean was to the north and the upheaval brought Norzalia to the surface, then the ocean would no longer be there to provide source to salt, right? But they're non-specific about where the ocean is in relation to Centralia. So if there's ocean all around Centralia and there's a cataclysm and Norzalia is raised to the surface, or Norzelia is raised to the surface, then, you know, it begs the question of, like, why do people migrate there if there's already plenty of salt, right? Because they said they never wanted for salt. Why do they migrate there if they don't have anything that they're missing in Centralia, right? Especially if they migrate there to then fight over the salt at the source.
After all their searching, they unearthed a giant crystal.
Interesting.
No, a very pillar of salt.
Okay.
They showed it to the people of Norzalia, told them that salt could be found beneath their very feet. However, those who had seized control over the source sought to reign over all of Norzalia by controlling the salt.
Well, they said the Rosellan, right, went to Norzelia to stop the war, but they said that people originally migrated to Norzelia and then they sought the source for its salt, right? But so my question there is that kind of concept of, like, why did they migrate to Norzelia in the first place, right? If Centralia was a perfectly fine, happy place, you know. So that the reason why I say that is kind of like, it feels like there's missing information there, right? Like the concept of, like, an extra line from the writers saying that during the cataclysm of Norzelia, Centralia was destroyed or lay in ruin, right? Because that gives an impetus for people to want to migrate from Centralia to Norzelia. That's nitpicky. I'm just talking,
They,
basically.
the holy state of Hyzant, attacked and slaughtered the Roselle.
So we were right. The Hyzant has been the bad guys
They
from
hid
the
pillar,
very fucking
erased
beginning.
the existence of salt crystals,
I hate
and
them.
imprisoned the surviving Roselle at the source.
Yes. And they did this because they are greedy sons of bitches and they wanted to keep that information secret to themselves. Ay.
Thus we were branded sinners, criminals who wanted sole dominion over the land's salt. To justify their own monopoly, Hyzant created the goddess's teachings.
What's
But
wrong
she
with them
needed a
with
villain.
worshiping a god? Nothing wrong with worshiping a god. It's
To
when
this
you
very
persecute
day,
and
the
and
Roselle
harm
are
other people in
scorned,
that god's
made to
name.
shed
That's
blood and
what's wrong with it.
tears, all in her name.
Ay.
But the goddess herself is proof of the Rosellan legends. I saw it with my own eyes during the uprising. Inside of her statue is the pillar of salt that was taken from our ancestors.
Ah, interesting. So, like, her core is like a giant
But
salt
I could not expose
crystal?
the truth of the
Or pillar?
goddess. It took everything I had just to get a fragment.
Oh, that's the scratch, right? Like they talked about how Orlea
piece is
attacked
the
the
key to
statue
freeing
and
the Roselle.
scuffed it or scratched it. She was trying to hack into it and
must
take
be.
the pillar
For
from it.
my brethren who continue to suffer for a crime they did not commit.
Interesting. Okay. Hell yes. That honestly, so that gave us some information. It didn't give us all of the information
the
in
Holy
existence.
State's teachings are false. The goddess's blessings spread across all Norzelia.
But we can extrapolate a lot more information from what we've just been told there, right? Especially specifically that blurb in the beginning, as they talked about the Roselle, they stated, right, that the salt didn't disappear once the sea, left. It was just hidden. It was buried down within the earth as crystals, right, as salt crystals. So that reinforces the idea that there's basically just a gigantic salt deposit at the Norzelian mines, and that's the impetus for S-Frost being like, fuck it, we don't have to rely on Hyzant anymore, we can do whatever we want. So that reinforces our thought process already there.
The blessing that shall be the key to the chains that bind our people.
Hot take, the world of Triangle Strategy is flat. Well, now, after I never even thought about Norzelia. Well, I say never thought about Norzelia. Very early on, there's a little blurb, a little snippet you can find that talks about lands to the south, but they're like, it's hard to get there. But I never really thought of Norzelia as like the northern part, right? But now that we know there's a Centralia and Norzelia is to the north of it, now I'm like, is there an Eastalia or a Westelia or a Southalia? Like, what's going on here? Like, so, it's entirely possible Triangle Strategy might be flat. The land of directions may indeed be flat. Westeros. I mean, it could absolutely just be Westeros at that point. Oh, goodness.
The blessing my mother spoke of was the salt crystal.
Yes, of course.
And the false teachings referred to salt existing outside the source.
Yes.
It would be the key to ending Hyzant's monopoly on salt.
Yeah.
This has the power to change Norzelia as we know it, but it is not something we can recklessly proclaim.
But I cannot forgive Hyzant.
I'm with
they
you.
rewrote history with their false doctrines and continue to oppress the Roselle. All to maintain their power over salt.
Yep.
We have the keys that can unlock the fetters that have bound us for so long.
Sozelia? I like
We need
Sozelia.
only find a way to use them.
Sozelia sounds better than Southalia
We
to
would need
me.
conclusive evidence. Right now, all we have is a salt crystal. We would not be able to prove that more salt lies beneath the earth, or even the truth of the goddess's statue.
I want to be like, I want to just project, because here's the thing. I guessed it, and Jay was mad at me when I guessed it, but I guessed salt being in the Norzelia mines when we were in the Norzelian mines with Dragon, right? I was like, oh, he just freaked out because he just found a whole bunch of salt in there, right? Like, I guessed that early on in the game. And I just want to jump out at the characters and be like, how could you have not put this together? Why would Gustadolf put himself in a shitty situation knowing that Hyzant could just be like, well, we're not giving you any salt, and then his people would literally die. Oh my goodness. And Sarah Noah and crew over here were like, how are we gonna prove this? We can't prove that more salt lies beneath the earth. You could if you went and found that salt beneath the earth, and guess where it is? You've been there before. You were a dum-dum and had no clue? Oh, no, that's not a dum-dum. So I run D&D, right? Like I run D&D and I've always like really liked puzzles and stuff like that. So like I have a long time of like looking at things in a very specific way and being like, hold up. Is there a trick here? What's going on? I like guessing at the secrets to stories and why stories are the way that they are. So anyways, it's just one of the things that Jay hates it when I do it. Jay gets mad at me because I'm always guessing at what's gonna happen next, and he's like, just fucking play the game. So
I don't care how much time it takes. Can we not find out the truth?
absolutely.
House Wolford is currently under the banner of Hyzant. We may be branded as rebels if the Holy State deems our actions as defiance of the goddess.
I don't give a shit. Do it anyways.
And so, history would repeat itself.
But my mother has given us a chance with this book. I cannot simply let it pass me by.
if we find a massive salt deposit, then
I
it doesn't
understand
matter
how you
what
feel.
Hyzant says.
And the responsibility of House Wolfort to the Roselle. Please give me some time to think, Frederica.
They write
Of course.
Sarah Noah.
I believe
Obviously,
in House Wolford.
obviously they have to write Sarah Noah as being flexible enough to like go with the different paths that are offered to you. Because if Sarah Noah is just this staunch character of this is what I believe and this is what I'm gonna do, then it doesn't make any sense for him to be flexible enough to go down the different paths. But in doing that, in writing him in that way, they really write him, for me personally, right? There have been too many instances where it comes close to Sarah Noah being like, guess we're okay with slavery, right? And that, I just don't like that, right? Like, I just don't like playing a character that I want to play as like a just good character, or I'm hoping is going to be a just good character, be that close to that borderline scenario of be like, I guess we like the choice of giving the Rosellans over or fighting for them, right? Like that kind of scenario. That when that happened, I was just like, as soon as that happened, the way that Sarah Noah reacted to it, he was like, yeah, I know I am. And that's another thing that I'm like, I don't like those parts of the game. I don't like those parts of the game, right? Like, I don't like how the game seems to try to force this concept on you because there are other paths. There are other options, but the game's like, no, we're telling this story, so you got to make this choice. Anyways,
And in you,
I'm
Sarah
belly
Noah.
aching.
You deserve credit as well, Lady Frederica.
Yeah,
You and your mother are the reasons we can wield this truth.
that's very true.
You are a friend of the Roselle, now and forever. Walk proud, with the knowledge that you have served your people well.
I shall. Thank you, Jerome.
There is none other I would trust to lead our people into the future. Where you go, we shall follow. Of that you have my word.
Is Jerome finally going to join
I
us?
shall count on it.
Ugh. I wanted Jerome to join from the very beginning, or from the first time we
I
met
think
him.
I follow you. These salt crystals. They're the treasure we're looking for?
Oh, this
Correct. And not a word to anyone of what's written in this book.
Mum's the word, promise. Guess that means you don't want any suspicious-looking fellows anywhere near this place. Now, I know we haven't always seen eye to eye, but how'd you feel about leaving the protection of this village to Pa and the others? Decrepit as he is, he can still bust heads better than any rank-and-file troops. I can promise that
I mean,
much.
if he can get out of bed.
For what it's worth, I believe her.
I do
Her
believe
sort
her,
aren't
yeah.
known for lying.
I
As
mean,
do I.
here's the other
Then I
thing.
leave the protection of the village to Travis. I hope that's fine with you, Jerome.
I mean, Travis, here's the thing. Like, you leave the protection of the village to Travis and Jerome. Jerome, it was perfectly capable of fighting and defending the village as well. Don't just take the responsibility away from him, give it to both of them.
The Roselle treat all creeds fairly, so long as we are treated fairly and kind.
AKA Jerome over there being
Thank you
like,
for your
yeah, that's
understanding.
fine. But if he
Well
fucks
then,
around, he'll
we should
find
return to the
out.
capital.
I
will
like that.
consult with Benedict and Roland on this new turn of events.
So here's my other thing is why we okay. So the game made us choose, do we stay with Roland in the capital and root at the royalists? Do we go home to see Lord Simon, who's now apparently better, or do we go help the Roselle? The Roselle are past home. So I really don't know why we couldn't two birds with one stone that, right? Like, I get, oh, well, it's a time-sensitive scenario. You've got to pick one or the other for the big portion. But now that we're done with the big portion in Roselle, and assumingly the big portion has passed us by in Castle Wolfort, couldn't we just stop, like, a day on the way back and be like, hey, Dad, hope you're doing well? I already assume that I know the answer, but I'm trying to make a point, right? Like from a storyline perspective, or from Sarah Noah's standpoint, like getting into the character himself, why would Sarah Noah not just be like, hey, we're passing by home, I'd love to see Dad, let's stop real quick, you know? Anyways, it's those little types of things that lead me to like making guesses, and I'm like, I don't like where this is going, do I? You know?
Roland, Benedict, and Frederica regroup back in the capital. But what they experienced while they were away could very well alter the course of destiny itself.
Interesting. Bum 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 ba-dum.
What is so important you wish to speak to me alone?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I know where this is going. I know where this is going. And we're going to have to find out where that goes on the next video. If you're watching on Twitch, stick around. We are going to keep playing. If you're watching on YouTube, I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you next time for this fucking shit. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.